Welcome, MotoAmerica. Okay, I'm going to start it again. Cut. Welcome's not the right word. I got to go with hello. Hello, MotoAmerica fans, and welcome to this latest edition of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm Bice. Carruthers is on the other side. And in the middle, we have Michael Martin, our special guest for this week on this video edition. Michael is the rider representative for MotoAmerica, but there's a lot more to Michael Martin than that. He's got a rich past and a rich history in WERA racing, endurance racing, Suzuki racing, Valvoline Suzukis. He's logged a lot of laps on race bikes in his career, and it's great to have you here, Michael.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
So let's get started about you're new to MotoAmerica this year as our rider rep. Tell us about how that came about.
Actually, it started here. I was here last year at the last race of the year, and I was down on the grid and talking to Thomas, and I said, hey, Thomas Stevens, the race director, and I said, if you guys ever need any help, I could maybe come and do something for you, maybe. And so he called me about middle of maybe December, January, and said, you want to do it? Would you like to be a rider rep? And I kind of thought, well, I don't know. Let me think about it for a little bit, because I was doing lots of motocross, and I'm kind of involved in the Texas vintage motocross scene, the TVRC, and I enjoy going and doing those races. And we have a Moto Masters age group racing motocross series in Texas too. And so kind of like doing that. It was kind of fun, and then all this COVID thing hit and all the races started getting canceled. And, I just thought, well, I don't know, maybe this is not bad. So I called Thomas back up and said, I'll do a couple. I'll do, let me do half the season or something, see how it goes. And because I didn't really, you always kind of want to make sure that you're a good man for the job, good fit, and this kind of stuff. And so did the first two events up at Elkhart Lake, and and they keep asking me back. So I guess I'm doing okay.
When you said yes to it, did you think it would involve shoveling mud at New Jersey?
Because
we saw you on TV doing exactly that.
Yeah, man, shoveling water is what he was doing.
He put his finger in the dam.
Yeah, I'm a full-on MotoAmerica employee now. I'll do whatever needs to be done. And so, it was kind of funny about that is we were, the people at New Jersey were saying, hey, we don't know. We got river rolling across the track. And, and so I said, well, I do this all the time at my property in Texas. And so, look, we need to dig a hole and get a pump and pump it out. And so we ended up helping, doing it. It worked out all right. Yeah, it's pretty good. I know it's funny because every now and then I'll hear walking through the pits or something, I'll hear somebody, hey, I saw you on TV.
Sweeping.
yeah, sweeping, doing the dirty work.
What does it take to be a rider rep? Because you strike me. Well, really, Michael, you strike me as having a very, very calm demeanor. I think you've got a smoldering fire underneath you, and you probably have calmed down from when you used to race a little bit. But have you always been a person that you think is suited for this job?
That's a good statement, really, because it certainly is a lot different being on the other side of the fence from where I was a rider for all the years, and to see all of the infrastructure that it takes so we could go around the track. It was mind-boggling for me. I really didn't know the scope of the infrastructure until after a few weekends. And then, the first couple of weekends, I have to admit, my head was spinning, and there was a lot going on, and I'm like, thinking, I don't know, man, if I'm good for this, because it entails doing some things that, riders make mistakes, or there's problems, and, jump starts or this and that and the other. And you have to go and, not only do they feel bad that they've done it, and, we've made them do a drive through and, and all this stuff. And then you go hit them with a fine, or, they have to come up and talk to me about it. And so the majority of time, my customers are not very happy.
Right.
Right.
So how does that go?
Customers,
Yes, that's the way I look at it. And this is one of the things that I've kind of thought that bring into MotoAmerica is a feeling of these are our customers, and we need to treat everybody with respect and try to do the best that we can, because we got to keep this sport going and make it bigger and better for everybody involved. And and over the years that, I taught with Kevin Schwantz at his school for years and years, and in the Team Hammer school and everything, is I've always thought that as an official or a rider instructor, that we have to teach everybody so we can all start at a higher level. If we all just take our knowledge of the sport and, don't do anything with it, then everybody starts down at the bottom layer. And so, I'm just trying to kind of really give back a little bit to the sport, I guess.
And plus, as a former racer, you can see you can see like why they make those mistakes.
Yes,
you've made them, right. You've jump starts.
Oh
and,
yeah.
You've been an idiot and run into somebody, or you've.
The biggest one is losing track of the bikes. Okay, so Elkhart Lake, if you go down the back straightaway and you decide, I don't want to do the rest of the, you cut through, you go at turn 5, you go straight, and you go back up in the pits.
Right.
I did it several times.
Right.
I didn't know that you can't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so when it happens to another rider, we're lost track of number 77, and it's like, well, what's the big deal? I did.
But it is.
But it's a big deal.
They've got to keep, control of the bikes.
Yeah, it's a, again, there's several things that.
Sorry.
There's Paul, that he's going on vacation already, and the phone calls are already coming.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about that's interesting with your career is, when we were all younger, when I was younger, I've always been oriented towards paying a lot of attention to AMA racing.
Sure.
A lot of your racing was in WERA, and
Yes.
I knew about you. I saw ads. I knew Trey Beatty, Michael Martin, all you guys. Josh Hayes when he got started that
Sure.
way. Back then, it felt to me like WERA was almost a competitor to the AMA. Now it's maybe a little different than it was. Was it considered competition to the AMA? And why did you do most of your racing in WERA?
Well, I'll start off with the age thing. And I was a young motocross kid, and I raced motocross. That was my first motorcycle love, and still today I'm really a big motocross fan, and that's kind of, it definitely fuels my fire. I watch all the national motocrosses and go to as many of them as I can, and this kind of stuff, and that's kind of I really love that, and I love road racing too. But it's motorcycles, I guess, in general. But it just kind of, I forgot where I was going now. Where was I going?
Well, you were starting with WERA and how you said,
WERA. So put it, Paul. No, so
I should let you take that call.
So the WERA thing, I think at that time that they were kind of competing, because we had the Formula USA thing, and
Right.
there was, I think, a little bit of TV time in there that we were getting, and I don't know if the AMA was getting. But for me, I spent a lot of time. I was older before I started road racing. I, motocross kid. Then I went and did competition go-kart, shifter kart stuff, and then I went over to Europe and raced a season in the Formula Renault French Championship, and I had been over there in 1984, I think 485 or something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all didn't catch that.
That was the year I was born.
Yeah.
And so, so I, came back from France and was just kind of looking, didn't really have, kind of had to quit motocross, and I liked the idea of racing on the asphalt, and it was clean, and you didn't go home with dirt in your eyes and all that kind of stuff. And so, so a buddy of mine, a very dear friend, Wesley Taylor, who passed away, and an unfortunate thing, he was a great guy, but he said, "Hey man, you need to come out and do this. You would love it, Michael. You'd be great at it. This is, And so we went out to Texas World Speedway, which was the roughest, nastiest track back in those days, and he had a brand new GSXR 1100, and so in practice I put on his letters. Isn't that right? I was like going, oh man, and I was not a street bike guy. I thought, guys with steering dampeners and all that stuff, I'm like, well, I was just a motocrosser. And so went and rode his bike at Texas World Speedway, and I'll remember it just like, man, this is pretty cool. And it was the, the low slung seat with the big gas tank and all that stuff. And it was a amazing bike of its day. And And so I thought, man, this is cool. So I went and bought my guys that I grew up across the street from me had an RZ 350, and I bought that thing, and I just peeled his numbers off and put mine on there and put on my little yellow amateur vest, and started road racing. And this is another thing too. We, in Texas, we had 2 tracks. We had Oak Hill in Texas World, and I did my first race at Oak Hill, and I did the start, my first race, and I went into the first turn.
Oh, I was going to say.
Put my foot out. I'm not bullshitting either. I really did.
Sure, right?
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, and I kind of like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be doing that, and so old habits are hard to break, I guess, or something like that.
No, but I mean, as far as that goes, from sticking your leg out versus getting your knee down, once you figured that out, did you get your knee down right away, and that's what you did?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
Man, I was doing one of those things where I'm trying to, I'm going to get it down, one of those kind of things. And so it took me a little while, but I, like my first novice race, I think I got 3rd or something like that. And to me, it was like,
yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, man, this is duck soup, man. And I'm sticking my head up in the bubble, and I'm watching the tachometer going down the straightaways, and, this is easy, compared to my motocrossing and stuff. And so it was, I keep banging my hands on these things. It was, I really fell in love with road racing right as soon as I started doing it. And I had my little RZ 350, man, I loved that bike. I really, I have quite the motorcycle collection at home now, and
you still have it?
No. Oh, that's where I was going. I thought, man, I wish I would have never sold that bike.
Yeah.
I mean, because I kept it all in stock form, and all these other guys were putting all the trick pipes on it and carburetors and all this kind of stuff. And I was whipping the tar out of them with my little stock one, and they couldn't handle it.
So did you have stock pipes with the catalytic converters and everything?
Oh, yeah.
You have the yellow one or the red, white, and blue
red,
one?
white. The red, white. Looked like Eddie. Man, I used to think it looked like Eddie Lawson's Yamaha. His Daytona bike or something. Yeah.
So when you were racing this RZ 350, that's right around the time I think that Kevin Schwantz was racing an RZ 350, or was he a little bit before you with an RZ 350?
Kevin, he took the shortcut.
Okay.
He went straight from riding at Texas World, bombing through the water at one of the endurance races, and then he went straight to the top.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, where I kind of slugged around down there in the bottom dwellers.
But he did race an RZ 350 around that time period, didn't he?
I don't know if he did or not, but I know
I
rode
have some photos of him back then.
Yeah, and he rode an Ascot, and Kevin could, still to this day, he can ride a unicycle and be good at it.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so it was, and Kevin and I have had a good long friendship too over the years, and great guy, and we have a lot of fun together when we go do stuff in wheelie competitions and trials bike competitions. Because when we get together, it's not just, it's all like, I'm going to beat him. He's going to beat, no, I'm going to beat you over this thing. We're going to, so it's kind of fun. Yeah. And we taught here at Barber for, for years and years, and rode Atlanta at his school. And we really had a wonderful, his schools were, we taught a lot of people how to ride motorcycles better, be more competent motorcyclists, and we had a shit ton of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. When we would teach everybody, we would do all the classrooms and everything. And then when class was over, it was jump on the trials bikes, jump on whatever. And we had around Road Atlanta, we had trials sections everywhere. We all took our trials bikes out there, and it was just, we had really a fun time. And then when we came here, we couldn't really do all that much.
Right.
Yeah.
A little more sanitary.
A little different.
Right. Trey was out doing burnouts one time. We used to do stand up burnouts and we got one started back there, I think. And by the time that he went about halfway around, all of a sudden the Barber police, you can't do that here.
It's a little different. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good though, because this place is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it is a true joy to come here and look at this track, and it's it's conditioned and it's all kept up like I do miss going fishing in that little pond back down there. Though. They got some.
What do they got? What do they have? Bass?
Yeah.
Oh,
big.
yeah.
I mean, you can throw a bare hook back there and pull out fish out of it. It's awesome. Yeah,
well, you mentioned Road Atlanta. Let's talk about that a little bit and go back to how you started getting involved in racing in WERA, and also how did you start racing for John Ulrich and Valvoline, Suzuki, and all that?
I started back on my RZ 350. Then I bought a little FCR 400. And then got a FCR 600 the first year.
Man, you were a Yamaha guy.
I was a Yamaha, man. They were, they paid. Yamaha had good contingency, and I could ride it in C Superbike, B Superbike, and Formula One, and win $500 a shot, kind of thing. And so, when I was winning all those classes, it was, I felt like I was doing pretty good. I had got Dunlop tires were giving me sponsorship, and so I was. $500 a time, boom, boom, boom. It's pretty good.
That's good.
Considering that, you've been racing motocross all your life, and it's, you're just, shelling out. Yeah. And so I did that, and then in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that bad. That's
I know.
it's
it's not that long ago.
I bought a 750 GSXR. And started doing some of the Suzuki Cup races. And then I got on with Kurt Hall, and Jim Steele had a team. It was called Hall and Steele, and it was endurance team that did all the national WERA endurance races. And so they called me and says, "Hey, you want to come ride with us?" And so I thought, yeah, sure, be great. So went and started riding. We rode the production class. So Kurt was on with Team Suzuki on John's team, and then we had the production 1100 that me and Bruce Baldus and I can't remember all the guys. There were 3 or 4 guys, and we're on the Hall and Steel bike, and we were finishing. Man, we were finishing second overall. A lot of times, and up on the podium all the time, and so one time it was in Pocono, Pennsylvania, where. John was walking by, and I was doing something, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Man, I'm working my butt off because I want to ride on your team, man."
Oh, wow.
And he kind of, John gave me that look, how he does it kind of thing. And I just thought, well, you got to put it out there, kind of thing, and so he rang me up and says, "Hey, you want to, I don't know who, I think Mike Smith was leaving or something going on." And so they put me on, and then Kurt and I were the main team. Kurt Hall taught me a lot about road racing, and he was absolutely a wonderful teammate, because he was, that dude could ride an endurance bike for hour and 20 minutes at a time, and his lap times were just consistent all the way through. And so it gave me something to shoot for, and so I worked on doing that same thing where I could be fast out of the gate and go for a full hour and 20 minutes. And it was really weird in those years, because I did so many endurance races. I mean, I think at one time we were doing 16 endurance races a year. Wow. And that was, in some of the years we did 2 24-hour races. We did one at Willow and one at Nelson Ledges. And so, there was a lot of riding going on. I would race the endurance races, either a 4, 6, or 8 or 24-hour races on Saturday, and then come back and do all the Suzuki Cup races and everything on Sunday. It was a lot. There was a lot going on. And then we had a family business back at that time. And my father
Which was what? What was your family business?
Our family business was called Tube Forming Incorporated.
Oh, okay.
And this is how we kind of got in. That's how this kind of moves into the M4 thing.
Sure.
Is we made all the internal components to air conditioning and refrigeration products. 3/8, 1/2 inch, 5/8 inch tubing. We'd been it in all of these different configurations. And like if you look down in your air conditioning unit at home and you see all these copper lines that come out, we made all of that stuff for Carrier, Lennox, Whirlpool, all that kind of stuff. And so we had started off with just the 4 of us with my 2 older brothers and my dad. And then we worked and worked and worked. And my father, and still to this day, is, you work from 8 to 5. And at 8:15, if you show up at 8:15, he's like, and I had to go right past his office to get to my office too. And so, so I was racing full time and either driving home all night or jumping on a late night flight so I could get back on Monday morning, take a shower, sleep a couple hours and go to work. I learned to walk fast, look down, and look like I was really busy when I was really tired.
Yeah, I bet you were. So pretty much the whole time you raced, did you always have a kind of a full-time day job? That's kind of what you did?
Yes, and that kind of ties a bow around this whole conversation because I was older. I kind of went and did all the car racing thing and did the motocross deal for a long time. And then I didn't even get on a road race bike till I was 26 years old.
Wow.
I never even rode I rode a street bike maybe once or twice or something, but to me, it was like, riding a street bike was, it was like boring, going up and down the street, it's like, come on, man, if I can't wheelie this thing or do, have some fun with it, then, And so I was older when I started and older, that sounds funny, 26, I thought I was older. Man, how time flies, right? Now I'm, getting old now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting old. My knees getting bad and stuff. So that was kind of the reason why that I stayed with WERA stuff is because I had, I was tuned in with John's team and Keith Perry and, Keith and I are great friends still. And I got along good with John and, it was home for me. And I was able to continue to race and get back to work. And I was not dumb enough to think that I was going to make it big in the motorcycle racing, make enough money to where I wouldn't have to work anymore or something, that, it's like. So I continue.
So literally don't give up your day job.
Don't give up your day job. That's
Right.
exactly right.
Right.
And so I, worked hard at home and it was family business, my 2 older brothers, Richard and Robert, and my dad, I couldn't screw off. I couldn't, they were, they made me work. I was hard at it.
Do you ever, do you have any regrets that you never got a chance to do like AMA Superbike or anything? 'Cause you probably feel like you were good enough.
I certainly thought that I was quick enough, but again, I was a little bit older and I really enjoyed doing the endurance races.
Yeah.
I liked wearing those bikes out. And every time at the end of an 8-hour, at the end you get off the podium and you shoot champagne and and then you see that bike sitting there and it's got rubber marks all over the fairings and
It's done some work.
It's done some work, and it looks like it's sitting there with its tongue hanging out, and I used to always say, I rode the shit out of that thing today. Yeah. And I like that feeling. That was, it was good. The tires all worn out. And I also liked the mental part of it where, and I did so many endurance races that I learned, I could almost tell how long I was out on the bike by my mental capacity. Because I would start and I would be really focused, and then about in the middle of my hour and 20-minute stint, I would start, looking around the track a little bit and wondering what I was going to have for dinner, and this kind of stuff. And then once the fuel load lightened up, then the bike started really getting pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I would start having some fun. Man, this thing's great, And I used to, and it's really funny because I used to look at my fingers and I would say to myself, I wasn't doing any of this. Everything was just happening on its own. Now, and I used to say, man, I'm on the greatest roller coaster ride ever. And because I was so in tune with the bike and so in tune with riding long distances and riding for a long time that, my body just kind of took over. And I was just, it was really, it was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And, and John paid me good. And I rode my whole career. And I only fell over one time on that endurance bike. I don't know if there's a record for however many miles that I raced with crashes, but And I almost made it the whole way, except for Summit Point, West Virginia.
Oh, it's a tough track.
That god awful track. And I really didn't even crash. Well, I'd say we all say I really didn't crash, but But I went coming into that last corner onto the front straightaway, and it just kind of got a little sideways. And so I rode it off into the grass, and I thought, oh, okay. Well, then there was this big, mound of dirt coming at me, and I'm going, and pulled the front. I fell over. I was probably going 10 miles an hour, when I went
That
down.
was it. That was your only one.
That was the only one.
So you didn't get hurt.
No wonder John liked you.
Yeah. Because all those other guys, man, he was riding him up, man. You crashed my bike, buddy. You're going to pay.
But the cool
thing,
thing,
he didn't really do that. I'm just playing.
The cool thing you were talking about is you would use that bike in an endurance race, use it for all it was worth. You would get off that bike. You would go back to Texas to your day job. Then you'd come back the next time, and the bike would be back. It'd be perfect, pristine, right?
Man, and the only thing I did was after the races are over Sunday, or if we didn't have sprint races on Sunday, we had the endurance races, and that was it. And so, I'd get all the champagne off my leathers and stuff and pile them in there and zip it up and fly home, go back to work, come back next weekend, man, all my bikes just looking brand new, fresh and clean. Keith had them just, and I was sitting there thinking, man,
this is good.
And I was 36, 37 when I quit. And, it was a tough decision because I could have, I think John would have let me stay for as long as I wanted to, as long as I was still effective. And I retired as a national champion and I thought that, maybe this is time, but I wasn't really ready. But I remember
I don't know if you ever would have been though.
Yeah, and it's, it's kind of one of those things. But I remember it was at Road Atlanta, the last race that I rode that endurance bike, and it was raining and it was miserable, and I remember getting on it and then finishing the race and coming around on the last lap and saying, man, this is it. This is I'll never get on a fine piece of machinery like this again. This is it. Kind of deal. And so I kind of had. Kind of thinking, man, I don't know, maybe I should stay another year or something. I don't know. But no, I say that. I was really ready. I was kind of ready to move on and do some different things. And, I had my private pilot's license and I was, flying airplanes. And, there was a lot of things that I was wanting to go do and spend some more time with my friends and, and this kind of stuff. And where I wasn't just so on the rev limiter, flying from racetrack to working and being here and there. And, I was kind of ready to take a little bit of a break. And when I did retire, I just went straight into teaching the Hammer schools and stuff and then got on with Kevin's schools. And so I really had never stopped.
Right.
I'm still just still
rider
doing
rep now.
Now I'm rider rep now. Yeah. And
just keeps going.
It's been a good, I can't complain about anything. And I've had a good run and it's, and I'll keep doing it as long as I can and as long as everybody will have me and as long as I can do a good job. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Is that, I really, with MotoAmerica, when I took the position, I really, I don't know if things needed to be changed or not. I just kind of wanted to come in and fit in and do the right thing. And I think I've done pretty good. It's been all right. And I think all the people respect me and like me. And most of them don't even know that I ever raced a motorcycle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Very few.
Yeah, these kids would have no clue.
Yeah. Now, Josh Hayes, okay.
Yeah.
So Josh and I was the rider when Josh rode the endurance bike for the first time. I was his teammate. That was the weekend that I fell over.
Oh,
as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Summit Point.
Yeah, Slippery Point, West Virginia. So Josh Hayes was my teammate, and they, I think Trey had had something to do or something, and so they called me back and said, "Hey, you want to come do this endurance race?" And I think it was maybe a year after I retired or something, and so I made it all that time and then come back and fall over, when you know it. But But Josh got on the bike. He was, and man, it was so funny. And Josh and I are still close, good friends. And when he got on that bike, he was a skinny little kid from Mississippi, and he was going down that front straightaway, and I was watching. He was hanging on that bike so tight, it was just, and he kept coming in and saying, "Man, this thing's wiggling all over the place. I can't hang on to it and everything." And Keith looking at me, I said, "That thing's fine, man. I'm not having any problem at all," kind of thing. And I think Josh was just, first weekend, first on the big bike, and all this stuff. And so he was, so I taught him well. Now that he went on to be,
I think
whatever
so.
time. Yeah, whatever time.
Four-time AMA
Superbike champion.
Yeah.
Taught him all he knows. I did.
One of the things I want to make sure we cover, and this is a kind of a big deal for me, and it should be for you guys too, is we do a lot of social media, and when we talk about the Suzuki team, we're constantly putting down Team Hammer or M4 X-Star Suzuki. So M4, what is M4? M4, okay, I did some research. I started realizing, it's related to Michael Martin. I'm thinking, well, he mentioned his two brothers, and he mentioned him, and he mentioned his dad. So I'm thinking, it's the dad and the three Martin brothers. But M4 is actually not that. M4 is Michael Martin.
I'm the original M4.
Which stands for?
Miracle Man Michael Martin.
Miracle Man Michael Martin, which was a
Don't laugh back there, you guys. Come on, man.
So John Ulrich coined that, right?
John Ulrich coined that. It was a weekend down in College Station, down at Texas World Speedway. And you guys, all of the planets had lined up for me there. Okay, so it was going to be the 100th victory of the Team Suzuki Endurance 100th. We had 99, so it was going to be the 100th victory. It was at my home track at Texas World Speedway. Moto World was there, cameras, and everything was there to film it all. We had I think a 6-lap lead with, maybe 2 hours to go or something like that. I'm not exactly sure the timeline, but, and I'm sitting in the pits and I'm thinking, whoa, man, we got this baby in the bag, and all of a sudden I see Keith. Because Keith Perry could sit there in a 24-hour race. He could sleep in between every lap, and he'd go. And he knew that when that bike was coming around, he didn't even have to look at it. He just knew the sound of it. And so I saw Keith. This was only I think it was an 8-hour. And Keith, I'm seeing him look around, and then we hear over the thing, and the number one bike's down, and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought, oh my God, how could this happen? So get the bike back, and the front end was locked up. We had to put I think the front end was locked up. We had to put new brakes on it, and it went off into the mud and kind of got a little, And so we were working diligently to get this thing going. I put my helmet on, I was ready to go, and they fired me off. And so I take off down into turn one, and, whoa, no brakes for a second. I had to pump up the front brakes, kind of thing. And then I got about 3/4 of the way around the track, and and it dies. And I was like, oh my God, what could have happened, And so I put the thing in neutral, start pushing it back. And then I see Keith running towards me, and he flips. They had turned the fuel off. And so they turned the fuel on. Now you don't have to mess with that with fuel injection now.
Right.
This is when we had 4 carburetors, and it took a man to twist the throttle, and all that stuff. Going into detail, right?
Love it.
Yeah, and so bumped me off again, and then took off, and I really don't know how many laps we were down. I think we were down like 3 laps, and we had 45 minutes or 50 minutes left in the race. No, that can't be right, because I came in and I refueled it. So it was, I know it was under 2 hours, because I stayed on that bike the last 2 hours. So if it was a 6-hour race or 8-hour, it was 2 hours from the finish when I jumped on it. And because I know that they were worried that I couldn't go over the 2-hour limit ride time. And so I got on that bike and I rode. I can't tell you how hard that I rode to get back. And I kept going by people, and I think, okay, there's 1 lap on him, and I'm getting another lap on him, and another lap. And man, it was wet and cold and miserable. I think it was November or something, way late in the year, October, something, I don't know. but there was a dry line or a semi-dry line this wide around the track, and I was absolutely so focused in and rode. I mean, I was riding it like it was a sprint race, and I made up time, and I kept going by these guys thinking, okay, man. And then they brought me in to refuel, and I know Trey had his helmet on and everything like that, and I did not take my hand off that handlebar. I said, put the fucking gas in this thing and let me go.
Wow.
I mean, I was just in a zone. I mean, I really was. And I got back off and I knew that I lapped some people so many times that I was sitting there thinking, I got to be back into the lead group here, because I mean, I was really, the conditions were horrible, and I was really on the edge, kind of thing. And so I pretty much knew I had, so about the last 5 or 10 minutes, I kind of backed it down a little bit. But when I came in, the team, it was just one of those moments of, it was one of the finest racing moments that, it's too bad that we didn't shoot videos like they did back in the old days of the auto racing, where, so-and-so comes from the 24-hour race and they win Le Mans and, and this kind of stuff. And it certainly wasn't to that level. But for our team, for John Ulrich's Team Suzuki Endurance Team, it was a big day, kind of thing. And with all the press that was there and all that stuff, it was, it was a fun thing. And then that's when John was saying, they used to call me M squared.
Right.
But then John came in, it's still on. I was showing Paul this and showing you too a little earlier about the, that now that they're going to start calling me M4, Miracle Man, Michael Martin. And so that's kind of where we got the idea to call the exhaust pipe company M4.
Right.
We kind of talked to John about it. We said, hey, man, what do you think? And John says, hey, man, that's great. Good. And so we, M4. So we sold our air conditioning company. And so we knew how to bend tubing. We could bend, all the different 3/8, 5/8, half-inch diameter tubes, and we could do all that stuff. We knew how to bend, and so we thought, let's start this exhaust pipe company, see how it goes, and so we started it, and we were down there working for years and years, and got it going pretty good. And then my older brother, Robert, and my dad and we were, working pretty hard, getting this thing off the ground, getting it going. And we were, at the end of the year, we'd have a $20,000 profit, and we'd all split that big $20,000 that, we'd get, $5,000 each or something. And so we kind of thought, the middle brother, Richard, bought it, and to give his son, Kyle, a place to work and this kind of stuff. And so they bought the company and they rented the real estate from us. And so we it's all kept in the family, kind of thing like that. But that's how the M4 thing kind of came up was
That's cool.
So you bend this tubing
kind
into
of long-winded.
But this is a big deal. I mean, you bend this tubing into these exhaust systems, and you obviously keep up with new models, or
Sure.
the company does.
Yep.
You must dyno test the bikes as well to make sure you're getting the power you're supposed to. What happened with that team? What kind of a pipe did they have on that bike that you raced? And did it switch to M4 at some point?
Kirker. We had a Kirker pipe on it. Yep.
Okay.
Kirker was the exhaust system that we used and back then. And so this whole thing kind of morphed into, at one time, John, we were looking to figure out a way to get our pipes out there a little bit more. And so let me go back a little bit.
Okay.
What our idea for M4 is if we can't make a better pipe than anybody else, if we can't make a stronger, lighter, better system, then there's really no need to do it, kind of thing. So we took our knowledge of tube bending and doing things a little bit different, not just bending tubes, but clamshelling things and cutting it and welding it and doing all this kind of stuff. And so we built what we thought was a better system. And we didn't, if we did make more power, we stayed on that dyno and we tried and we tried and we tried and we tried crossovers, we tried whatever it took to make that pipe better. And that's the reason why that the M4 pipes are so good now, is that we don't just build a pipe and put it out there. It's full on R&D in John's team. You know, they get the benefit of it, and it's truly a kind of a small thing that's made it bigger and better and provides a lot of product out in the United States, and it's a good system. You know, it's a good heavy duty system. They make them out of stainless steel and titanium, and everything will last a long time. It's good springs, good fit up, mountain. So it's I'm proud of it, I guess is a good way to put it. You know, it's not some dumpy little system that, you fire it up and then.
I mean, it's such a cool story that's the story of M4. So when you see M4, pipes on the bikes that Suzuki, that the Team Hammer uses or anywhere else, that's Michael Martin and his family were the origin of that. So
and we got, and so we started to kind of get this thing. We wanted to try to make a bigger splash out in the road racing world. And so we ended up, going to John and saying, hey, let's work out a sponsorship deal kind of thing or something. And so we didn't have any money back then at the time. And so we bought an 18-wheeler and let John's team use it in lieu of giving his team sponsorship money and this kind of stuff. So we've worked it from the very beginning and kind of turned it out. And it's turned out to what it is today with the big, now that they're the factory-backed
title, and you're the title sponsor for that
factory team. Yeah. And it all started way back in Pocono, Pennsylvania in 1922.
When you said you wanted to race for John Ulrich and he was kind of giving you a look.
Yeah.
And then it happened. So
yeah, that's right. And
what a great story.
Yeah. We've stayed good friends and all the guys on the team, and and that team now it's awesome.
Yeah.
You're a zillionaire.
No. But the best part about it, Paul, is I get to come and work for MotoAmerica.
Yeah, it's great.
There you go.
Well, it's so cool to have you with us. I mean, it's great. Like I said, I mean, your demeanor to me is perfect for what you're doing, and having ridden as much as you did and all the laps in endurance you did. You started later in your career, but you probably had more laps than riders that started a long time before you because all that endurance.
Yeah, we still hold in one of our bikes is over in the bike that we won the 24 hours at Willow and set the mileage record, the 24-hour motorcycle racing mileage record that still stands today. It's sitting over there in the museum now.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty neat to go see that old thing. And boy, because you look at it now and you go, whew,
Right.
That's a big old tub of, I won't say,
All right, so we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
But I got a question.
Okay.
You don't have to give any names. But
I got something else to say too.
hold on.
Okay.
I won't. You don't have to give any names. But have you been yelled at yet?
Yo.
Is it normally the rider? Is it a dad, or is it a tuner or crew chief?
Riders come in and they know that they've done wrong. And when you say, hey, dude, I got you speeding in pit lane or something, or got you on a jump start, they say, yeah, I did it, kind of thing. The rider's dad or crew chief,
Off
the chart, rev limiter.
Yeah.
Just straight on. And I truly have had a couple of sessions of being yelled at that I'm sitting there thinking, okay, do I really want to do this?
Right. No, it makes sense.
Right. Because
Nobody wants to
your
get
natural
yelled
thing
at.
is like, I really don't need this.
This doesn't pay good enough to do this stuff, kind of
This
thing.
is above my pay scale to get yelled at like this.
So with all that, I've got a new nickname now. I want y'all to know that my nickname from Race Direction is I'm now Itchy Hollywood Smalls.
Wow.
I told them that I would make sure that gets on this thing too, because they said, you don't have a hair on your butt unless you say that you're, So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I'm Hollywood Itchy Smalls. No, Itchy Hollywood Smalls.
Smalls, yeah.
And this all kind of comes around from some of our crew members, competitors out there in the way that they kind of walk around down in the pits and stuff. And when we're in race direction and we're kind of seeing them walking up and down the pit lane and stuff, Itchy, and we kind of nickname everybody. And so now I've become part of that now too.
Awesome. That's good. Well, I think we got to wrap it up here. This was great. I mean,
I'm sweating too, for heaven's sake.
It's hot in here. We have no ventilation. We got the ventilation off, so you can't hear it. But hey, one of the things I want to say, well, first of all, thank you, Michael, for being on.
Thanks
Great
for having
stories.
me. It's always awesome.
Yeah, it's terrific, and really glad to have you on a paddock with us. And thanks to the fans for tuning into this podcast. We're at Barber Motorsports Park right now, but we're going to be headed to Indianapolis Motor Speedway soon, and it's the first time going back there since 2015. So, get your race tickets, and certainly, subscribe to MotoAmerica Live Plus, our subscription streaming service and video on demand service, so you can watch all of our races that way, and pay attention to our tune-ins to let you know where our races are being broadcast on FS1 if it's Superbike, or MAV TV if it's Super Sport. And Indy's going to be great. It's close to me. Yeah, we're going to have a good time there. So we hope you'll come out too. And if you see Michael around, call him Itchy Hollywood Smalls, and he'll answer to that. So
I'll turn right around. Indy should be good. That'll be a great track. Got a lot of history around there. So
yeah,
cool.
We're looking forward to it. All right,
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
My pleasure, you guys. Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.